Okay. So, Fire Pro Wrestling, you personally have a long history with this game. Fans have sort of been wondering if you would ever be involved in it again, and now here we are. You've revealed that you're going to be doing a new story for Fire Pro Wrestling World. What's it like for you to return to the series?
So my debut game was the Fire Pro series. It was a Super Fire Pro special, I believe, and that was 25 years ago. And I wrote the scenario for the game after that, and since then I sort of retired from the Fire Pro series in general. And yeah, now 25 years later, here I am at GDC in the Spike Chunsoft booth, talking to the media about how I'm doing a new Fire Pro game again, 25 years later. And the reality of this is still kind of surprising to me, and I feel really great about being back on the series again.
What do you feel has changed about your writing style, and what's still the same for you now?
The first Fire Pro game that I wrote the scenario for, that was my first time writing a scenario for a game, and in fact that was really my first time writing pretty much anything. And that was, put simply, sort of me taking all the passion that I had for pro wrestling and yeah, sort of throwing it at this game. And in the time since, yeah, I've done a bunch of other games as well, and some things have probably changed slightly. For example, now I probably get into a bit more technical things, but in general, I feel that my writing style has pretty much stayed the same since the Fire Pro days. In that I think of the things that I want to write about, and it just kind of flows out naturally. And yeah, so in general, my writing style really hasn't changed very much since the very first game.
This upcoming story is a direct sequel from your original story. Where does this take place in the timeline? Like, how much time has passed? And what kind of a story are you telling this time?
It's basically in real time. The previous game was done in 1994, and now it's 2019. And the game takes place exactly 25 years after the first game. And basically what it is I had the idea, all right, what if the main character from the first game actually had like a girlfriend who was with child when the last game ended. And if she was pregnant at the time, then now that child would be 25 years old. And 25 years old is pretty much, I feel, the prime of a pro wrestler's lifespan. Prime of their career. So when Spike Chunsoft came to me and approached me with the idea of doing a sequel, I pretty much thought of that immediately. I thought, okay, well, it's been 25 years since then. I'm going to see what the son's up to now. And that's kind of where this the genesis of the story came from.
There have kind of been a lot of stories that touch on a similar concept in film recently. Creed's a really good example. Were there any films or other media that you turned to for inspiration for this sequel?
Actually, yeah, as you mentioned, Creed, that was a really big inspiration on me for the story. Another one is The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, but especially Creed in particular. The Rocky series in general, it's been going on for years, almost in real time. Like, you see the same characters from 20, 30 years ago, and they've gotten older. There's characters that you don't see anymore. There's breakups, there's also new encounters, new characters. And I watched that, and I thought, okay, this feels like something that I could possibly do too. Again, it's been 25 years since the previous game, and yeah, I really felt that was something that I could do with this series, so I decided to go in that direction. So yeah, again, Creed was probably the biggest influence on, as far as movies go, the biggest influence on this game.
So what is it about pro wrestling in particular that appeals to you so much, and how does it inspire you?
I feel it's really hard to say in just a word what exactly is so appealing about pro wrestling. But actually, when I was about in 6th grade, until I was in 6th grade, I actually hated pro wrestling. It was really kind of dark and bloody, and I just had kind of a scary image of it, and I really didn't like it at all. But again, when I was in about 6th grade, there was a pro wrestler named Tiger Mask, who was originally just a manga anime character. And I saw this guy make an appearance in real life when he first debuted as a pro wrestler. And this guy was completely different from all the stuff I'd seen before. You know, it wasn't all dark and bloody and kind of raw. This guy was like flashy and he looked really awesome and really kind of stood out for me. And the moment I saw that guy make an appearance, I became a fan of pro wrestling right then. And over the years, watching a lot of Japanese and Western pro wrestling, I feel like when you're watching pro wrestling and watching the wrestlers themselves, you really get a good picture of how these wrestlers live. You know, like the way of the pro wrestler's life. It makes itself apparent in the matches and their individual moves, in the interviews after the matches. And I've always been really kind of drawn towards the thing where, you know, you see the wrestler's persona and then, you know, behind that there's that, you know, just that raw humanity as well. And I wanted to sort of get into that with this game. But anyway, that's probably the biggest appeal about pro wrestling for me is the sort of raw humanity behind the whole showy personas and stuff.
Now, the original story is known for being very dramatic, very, very heavy-handed. Is the sequel gonna have that same sort of gravitas to it, or will it be more lighthearted?
Yeah, the original game was definitely pretty dark, and the really fundamental concepts or themes are going to be the same as the first game. But since the main character of this game is, again, the son of Smith, the main character from the previous game, he's going to have to sort of deal with the whole, you know, kind of being in his father's shadow and sort of having to, you know, carry around this load of his father's legacy. And while I'm not exactly sure how dark it's going to be yet, that is one aspect of the game that will probably sort of by default have to be a bit dark. And as I'm here at GDC taking all these interviews and answering people's questions, as I'm doing that, the story is actually sort of coming to shape inside my head. And I've sort of got a much better idea now than I did maybe just a day or two ago what sort of themes I want to tackle and what the game is going to look like. But as far as the darkness level goes, it really kind of depends on how well I'm going to be able to write up and portray the humanity behind these wrestlers. I'm really not going to know how it's going to turn out until I actually write it up myself. But I do really want to take the game seriously and really give it the sort of the respect that it deserves. And through that, I feel that you know, regardless whether it's dark or not, it is definitely going to be a serious game with serious themes. Well, if I was going to be a wrestler, there's a few things I'd like to do. One is I'd like to go learn from. So I'm not sure the English pronunciation. Karl Gotch is the name, famous American wrestler. I'd like to learn from him, learn some of his styles, and go over to England and learn more of their style of wrestling, you know, catching and stuff like this. And I'd also like to learn more sort of MMA type things as well. So basically have what I would consider sort of a perfect style, which also leaves some room and some leeway for just getting really kind of crazy sometimes. That's probably the type of wrestler, the type of style that I would adhere to if I was to become a pro wrestler.
それこそ今言った話は多分彼に投影すると思います。今回の主人公。
Probably the stuff that I said just now, as is probably going to be reflected on the main character of the new game also.
All right, let's say you were going up against each other in a steel cage match for the belt, pay-per-view. Can you give me your best pre-game hype-up smack talk interview?
It's pretty difficult to come up with something just on the spot like that, but if we were about to get into a match, I'd probably say something like, all right, I'm going to rip out every single one of your whiskers. At the end of this match, your face is going to be bald. I'm going to rip out every single one of those whiskers, so get ready for it.
Bring it on. I'll see you in the cage. When is this due for launch? Do you have a release date yet?
We're shooting for sometime this year. That's pretty much all I can say at this point.
Maybe it'd be safer if we just meet in the ring in the game when your story launches.
Blake.
All right, Blake, let's meet up in the ring, and we're going to have a real kick-ass match. But yeah, I'll see you in the ring.